I've got a pretty straightforward question to ask you, and I want your frank assessment of where we are, because frankly, I don't think that leaders alone have the answer here. I think you have as much of the answer as the leaders have, because we're basically in a really, really dire situation, which was coming towards us for some time. We've taken our eye off the ball. We have a deep disease within Europe, including the UK, which I will come to in a minute. And Donald Trump is the medicine for that disease. And when you take medicine, sometimes it's deeply unpleasant. How should the UK respond to US coercion over Greenland, if you indeed think it is coercion? I could have said tariffs, but some people are saying it's coercion, so why don't we go with that? And I'll give you my thoughts in a minute. 0345 6060 973, text 84850. How should the UK respond to US coercion over Greenland? Whether you agree with the term coercion or not, it's not exactly friendly. Some people would say it's mercantilist and downright mercurial. Others would say it's really no surprise. And yes, you don't have to take everything Donald Trump says literally, but he's been going on about this for quite some time, and he wants it. Maybe he wants it for his legacy, to go down in history as the US president that acquired Greenland. Maybe he genuinely wants it because he wants to ensure that the High North does not become the preserve of the Chinese and Russians. We had a long conversation about that last Sunday with Jamie Shea, former Assistant Secretary General of NATO. So you should all be well briefed on that. And if you missed it, you can try and catch it if you can, because it was a fascinating discussion about the High North of the Arctic Circle, about the economic as well as strategic importance of that whole area. And if you're now in a situation where Britain has just got involved in this exercise known as Arctic Endurance, and my friends, we sent the sum total of just one military officer as part of that exercise, right? And there are a few others from other NATO countries. I mean, this is a joke. It's a complete joke. I mean, this turned out to be a red rag to a bull to this guy, who's not exactly the most predictable figure in the best of times. And you're sending a small, minuscule number of troops to try and indicate that you're now suddenly taking the defense of the Arctic seriously. I mean, come on, let's be honest about this. And let's be, for once, serious about what this means. Look, as I see it, there are a couple of options here. And look, this is terrible news for exporters, because we already had the 10% export tariff on exports. The UK got carve-outs from certain industries. But this is going to really, really be very, very difficult for UK industry. And indeed, some are saying that Britain's manufacturing and pharmaceutical sectors will be the hardest hit by the new levies. The UK's biggest goods export to the US are machinery and transport equipment, 27 billion a year. Chemicals, 14 billion. Cars, 16.7 billion. Pharmaceuticals, 10.8. Now, this is going to be really, really terrible. And despite the fact that Sir Keir Starmer is saying this is completely wrong, Sir Ed Davies saying that Starmer's policy lies in tatters, Trump is now pursuing UK and NATO allies for just doing the right thing. Even Nigel Farage, who's a friend of Donald Trump, saying we don't always agree with the US government. In this case, we certainly don't. These tariffs will hurt us. Yes, they will hurt us, absolutely will hurt us, because the US is our single biggest export market. Yes, Europe collectively is bigger, but single as a country, it's the biggest. Now, Marco Forgione, the Director General of the Institute of Export and International Trade, said, and I quote, "We're going to see goods trading with the US suddenly becoming uncompetitive in the marketplace. So the impact for the UK will be huge, particularly at a time when we are struggling with anemic economic growth." Others, David Hennick, the director of the UK Trade Policy Project, said, and I quote, "If you're planning any kind of exports to the US, you no longer know what is going to happen tomorrow. This obviously will be a huge hit to US exporters." And Neil Shearing, Group Chief Economist at Capital Economics, said that the tariffs carried through the year, billions of pounds of investment in business in Britain would be put on ice at a time when structural investment was already very, very low. This could potentially lead to a recession, couldn't it? I mean, this is what economists are warning. It's the last thing we need, given where we are now. Very, very concerning. Look, the Danes aren't happy about it. There's a piece in the New Yorker magazine by Margaret Talbot. Denmark is sick of being bullied by Trump. Letter from Copenhagen. The US, once Denmark's closest ally, is threatening to steal Greenland and attacking the country's wind power industry. Is this a permanent breakup? Well, it might be, and certainly there's a decision to be made for the UK and Europe, both in the short term and in the medium and long term. Now, in the short term, as I see it, there are two options. And a third one, which is completely, in my view, not really going to come to pass, which is this. You either push back hard economically and stop pussyfooting around with Trump and actually engage in an economic trade war. That's going to mean pain, and that's going to mean potentially that the economy is going to suffer and we're all going to suffer. But we now are in a different realm, and we have to face the fact that we are in a different realm. The US is not an internal ally, if it ever was. And anyone who was deluded about the special relationship, put that one to bed permanently, will you? There never was one. There never will be one. There are multiple relationships that the US has for its own benefit, as do all countries. Let's not delude ourselves. So we either push back, option number one. Option number two, swallow it. Swallow the fact that the US is going to take Greenland and everything that that means for the NATO alliance. Might not like it, but that's an option. And are we really going to blow up the NATO alliance over Greenland? No, I didn't think so. Or number three, try and negotiate with Trump on the fringes of Davos and see where you get. I'm not sure that he's bluffing on this one. I might be wrong. Can never tell with the US president. I mean, it was only last week that he said that help was coming in Iran. So if you're an Iranian protester that unfortunately is no longer with us, I mean, I did say, you can't trust this guy. So caveat emptor. I mean, this guy changes his mind regularly, so it is what it is. I don't know, but I suspect he's not bluffing on this one. He wants this. He's been very transparent about it, and he's pushing very, very aggressively for it. So you can try that option if you want, but I think you'll probably end up sooner or later at options 1 or 2. There is a longer-term option too, which is built around 3 elements that Europe, including the UK, now needs to face up absolutely squarely and understand critically and clearly. This is a moment of clarity. 3 things. Arm up. Now is the time to arm up. If we're talking about 2.5% defence spending by 2027 and 3.5% by 2035, it's a joke. Arm up. Tell your people that we need to arm up. We need to be self-sufficient in Europe. We need to coordinate much more closely. Can't rely on the US anymore. And frankly, if you're Russia watching this, you'll be laughing in the Kremlin right now. So arm up, number 1. Number 2, become more self-sufficient. Become more self-sufficient in all things, which means reindustrialization, cheap energy, energy of all forms, and it means having your own tech industry or trying to develop tech champions here so you're not dependent on Silicon Valley. And number three, don't be over-reliant on any one country or group of countries for anything, be it security, be it trade, be it anything of any kind. If there's a values proposition here and you feel that you're closely aligned or more closely aligned with Europeans on values, then do that. Do these 3 things in the long term. In the short term, I've given you my view on the 2 options on the table. Over to you. What are your thoughts? Because I'm not sure European leaders have got any better thoughts than you're going to have. In fact, they probably listen to you and will be advised to listen to you before they make their decision in the coming days. How should the UK respond to US coercion over Greenland? 0345 6060 973, text 84850. Ali Miraj on LBC 1216.